The story of Australian real estate begins with the arrival of European settlers in 1788. The British Crown claimed ownership of the land, dispossessing the indigenous population.
Land was initially granted to free settlers and emancipated convicts to encourage development. These grants, often vast and sprawling, formed the basis of early agricultural estates. This system favored the wealthy and well-connected.
Early settlements sprung up along the coastline, particularly in fertile areas. Sydney, Hobart and Brisbane emerged as key centres. Land was primarily seen as a means of production. Agriculture dominated the economy, and land ownership was synonymous with wealth and social standing.
This period laid the groundwork for a system where land ownership was central to prosperity. Land speculation was rife, and disputes over boundaries and ownership were common.
The colonial government gradually implemented more structured land administration systems. However, the legacy of dispossession and the concentration of land ownership in the hands of a few continued to shape the social and economic landscape. The discovery of gold in the 1850s dramatically altered Australia's demographic and urban landscape. People from all over the world flocked to the goldfields, seeking their fortune and bringing with them a rich tapestry of cultures.
This influx led to a surge in demand for accommodation and services, transforming towns almost overnight. Tent cities and makeshift dwellings quickly sprang up, providing temporary shelter for hopeful miners.
This population boom spurred the development of more permanent settlements. Towns like Ballarat and Bendigo transformed into bustling urban centres. Land that was once considered worthless suddenly became highly sought after.
This marked the emergence of a formal land market in Australia. The gold rush also led to the growth of industries that supported the mining sector. Construction boomed to accommodate the growing population.
Transportation networks expanded to connect the goldfields with major cities. This economic activity further fueled the demand for land and contributed to the rise of a more complex real estate market. The legacy of the gold rush is still evident in Australia's urban geography.
Many towns and cities that experienced rapid growth during this period have continued to thrive. These areas remain major population centres today. The gold rush cemented the connection between land, economic opportunity, and urban development in the Australian psyche.
The end of World War II ushered in an era of unprecedented prosperity and population growth in Australia. The returning servicemen and a wave of European migrants fueled a housing boom.
The government actively encouraged home ownership through policies like soldier settlement schemes and low-interest loans. This period saw the rise of the Australian suburb as we know it.
Detached single-family homes on quarter-acre blocks became the aspirational ideal. Suburbs sprawled outwards from the city centres, facilitated by the increasing affordability of cars.
This era marked a significant shift from inner-city living to a more suburban lifestyle. The Australian dream of owning a home with a backyard became attainable for many.
This period also saw the government play a more active role in housing provision. State-owned housing commissions were established to provide affordable housing for low-income earners.
These commissions built large housing estates, often characterized by their functional, mass-produced architecture. While well-intentioned, these projects sometimes struggled to create thriving communities.
The post-war boom had a profound impact on Australian cities. The growth of suburbs led to urban sprawl and increased reliance on private vehicles. This period established the Australian dream of home ownership, but also laid the groundwork for future challenges related to affordability, transport and urban planning. Section 4, Economic Liberalisation Reshaping the Real Estate Landscape. The 1980s and 1990s were a period of significant economic reform in Australia, marked by sweeping changes that would forever alter the financial landscape. Financial deregulation, lower interest rates, and the floating of the Australian dollar had a profound impact on the real estate market, creating a new era of economic possibilities. These reforms led to increased competition in the banking sector, making it easier for individuals and families to access home loans, which was previously a more challenging endeavour. The deregulation of the financial industry also led to the introduction of new financial products, such as mortgage-backed securities, which revolutionized the way real estate was financed. This increased the flow of capital into the housing market, further fueling demand and spurring rapid development in suburban areas. The combination of easier access to credit and a growing economy led to substantial increases in house prices in major cities, transforming the urban landscape. This period also saw the rise of the investor in the Australian real estate market, as more people sought to capitalize on the booming property sector. Tax incentives, such as negative gearing, encouraged individuals to invest in property, making it a popular strategy for wealth accumulation. Negative gearing allows property investors to deduct their losses on an investment property from their taxable income, making it an attractive option for those seeking tax benefits and long-term gains. The economic reforms of the 1980s and 1990s had a lasting impact on Australian real estate, setting the stage for future market dynamics. They contributed to a long-term upward trend in house prices, particularly in Sydney and Melbourne, where the demand for housing continued to grow. While these reforms made home ownership more accessible to some, they also laid the groundwork for future concerns about housing affordability, a challenge that continues to shape the market today. Section 5. The boom years, growth and its discontents. The turn of the millennium ushered in a period of sustained economic growth for Australia, fueled in part by the resources boom. This prosperity further boosted the real estate market, particularly in cities with strong links to the mining sector. Low interest rates and continued population growth from overseas migration further amplified demand, leading to substantial house price appreciation. This period saw a shift towards higher density living, particularly in inner city areas. The construction of apartments and townhouses increased to meet the demands of a growing population and changing lifestyles. The concept of urban renewal gained traction, with former industrial areas being transformed into residential and commercial hubs. However, the boom years also brought challenges. Rapidly rising house prices, particularly in Sydney and Melbourne, outpaced wage growth, making it increasingly difficult for first-time buyers to enter the market. This period marked the beginning of growing concerns about housing affordability and its impact on social equity. The boom years highlighted the challenges of managing growth and ensuring its benefits are shared equitably. The increasing unaffordability of housing in major cities became a significant policy issue, prompting governments to consider measures to cool the market and improve access for first-time buyers. Section 6. Affordability crisis. The Great Australian Dream under pressure. In recent years, Australia has grappled with an escalating housing affordability crisis, which has become a significant concern for many citizens. The past decade has seen particularly sharp increases in property values, especially in major cities like Sydney and Melbourne. This surge in prices, coupled with stagnant wage growth, has pushed home ownership out of reach for many Australians. The affordability crisis is having wide-ranging social and economic consequences affecting entire communities. Young people are finding it increasingly difficult to enter the housing market, delaying major life milestones. The dream of owning a home, once a core part of the Australian identity, is becoming unattainable for many. Rising housing costs are also putting pressure on renters, who are feeling the squeeze. As demand for rental properties increases, so too do rents, making it challenging for low and middle income earners. This is contributing to growing rental stress and, in some cases, homelessness. The affordability crisis is a complex issue requiring a comprehensive understanding of various factors. Factors like limited housing supply, tax incentives for investors, and population growth have all contributed to the problem. Addressing this crisis requires a multifaceted approach involving government policies and industry innovation.